See, I got a huge cock.
She'll kill us all.
Tell me how we fix this, Charles. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
What they don't understand. They fear, and what they fear, we seek to destroy.
This is your fault, Charles. I tried to protect her.
I'm scared. When I lose control, bad things happen to people I love.
The girl dies. She's still Jean. We can still help her.
Sometimes you want to believe people are something that they are not. By the time you realize who they are, it's too late.
Live from Cool Boys Central.
You're the boss down there. I'm boss up here.
Hold your dicks and rub your tits.
You'll be ice cold.
Here come the Cool Boys.
Just a young boy.
So cool.
So cool. So cool.
I see cool boys.
Greetings, Cool Boy Nation! And welcome to a special installment of the Cool Boys Podcast. I'm Felk.
And I'm X Ballard.
I'm sure there's X-Men with F's and B's, but we didn't,
I took no time to look it up. This movie didn't need me to.
No. This episode, we'll be fucking the end of the Foxman universe. Okay, sorry, I forgot. I'm thrown off because there's no and I'm supposed to say
There's an it's in there.
This episode, we'll be discussing the end of the Foxman universe. So we will forgo our Cool Boy updates.
Yes.
And get right into X-Men, Dark Phoenix, and all the fabulous boners it has given us.
She's coming. It's time for
Spoilers.
Fucking thing sucks.
Sizzles.
Yeah. Ooh. So, Felk, I want to do this episode as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah, right.
All right?
Let's see how you see if that's possible. You have as big of Doc as the Shazam Spoilercast.
Woo!
Because obviously, if we're treating this as a treatise or wrap up, or perhaps
Correct.
in
Right.
memoriam of of the X-Men universe as a whole, which is sad and wrong because there's still another X-Men movie we haven't seen called New Mutants.
Will we ever see that?
I don't know.
Only
I think
may
VOD.
tell.
I think VOD.
I think most people are assuming it's going to be on Hulu. All right. So, first things
Not
first here.
Crackle?
No, Freeform. So, first things first, we have never done a full X-Men rating. When we did the Deadpool spoiler cast, we did the Deadpool movies, but we did not do the X-Men films. We actually fucked up the rankings of the X-Men films because we left out First Class, so we're going to do that right this time at the end of this episode.
Oh, good.
So getting into this, let's try to do it quick. I'm going to try to be fast, and I am going to try to say like a few things about each movie, but I'm not going to burn
fast.
on it. I'm going to try to be fast.
Yeah.
All right. So first film in the franchise, summer 2000, we get our first PG-13 Marvel film in theaters. We had Blade prior to this.
This is fast.
This is fast. And I saw my little X-Men movie, and I loved it at the time. I think I probably would have given it like 4 out of 5 boys at the time. Watching it now, it's got a good story. I say it's probably like a 3 out of 5 boys.
It's TV quality.
Yeah.
And it's a cheap fucking movie with a sleazy director, so you can't look back on it quite the same way.
It's very isolated.
I'll give it 4 out of 5 because of the precedent it set. It did figure out a couple of things.
And next movie, X2, X-Men United.
Yes.
My fucking favorite of the entire franchise, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is. I give this an easy 5 out of 5 boys. It has everything. It has Brian Cox as a villain. It dives deeper into Wolverine's past, and it gives us stakes.
It gives us stakes. I'm going to give it 4.5. My issue with it has always been the same. I don't like Magneto's sudden turn at the end. That he,
Oh,
they
I
have
don't think
to,
it was so sudden.
Well, it's not a sudden turn. He's always done that, but like I always prefer Magneto when he's fighting with the X-Men, or at least like as a tacit, like a little bit of agreement. And this movie, the second one in the franchise, gave us that. Here's Magneto having to fight for good. It's just the way he all of a sudden at the end decides to kill all the humans when he had been trying to stop them from killing all the mutants seemed not Magneto. He's not genocidal typically. He's just dominant because he's Malcolm X. Malcolm X didn't want to kill all the white people. I don't think. He just definitely wanted to advocate for a violent black uprising, which is why Professor X is Martin Luther King.
I thought Magneto did want to kill people. I thought that made him like a villain and
well,
not just
he will. I mean, he definitely wants humans to be seen as like second-class citizens. Because the whole problem with Magneto is he's a Holocaust survivor who kind of becomes the fascist. But even he would typically, even a smart interpretation of Magneto would probably see that like mass genocide probably makes me the thing I'm fighting against.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never really put it that way.
Scale
myself.
it back. Fassbender never seemed to try to exterminate all humans.
No, but he had no problem killing humans.
Individuals, sure. Oh, no problem. Individuals, if they were in his way.
Speaking of Magneto being as a villain,
yeah,
we can move on. That's literally a transition I can use for every single one of these movies, pretty much, that are X-Men related. So, speaking of Magneto as a villain, X-Men: The Last Stand. We also get our first links to things we saw in the recent film, Dark Phoenix. I like it a lot more than I think most people do. I would probably give it a 3.5 out of 5 boys. I actually don't mind the action. I think Brett Ratner did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, well, with an asterisk.
Yeah, with an asterisk, considering he took over a film that was abandoned weeks prior by Matthew Vaughn. And Matthew Vaughn essentially overtook a film franchise that Bryan Singer just bounced and left on to go do Superman Returns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that movie, the fact that it's even got made and it was made, competently, is pretty awesome in the first place. And it's really not a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie.
Yeah, I don't know much about the director of The Wolverine, and I'm sure James Mangold is a pretty nice person. But I love that Bryan Singer, Matthew Vaughn, and Brett Ratner have all been revealed to be dicks. I mean, Vaughn the least, but he, cheating on your wife. Claudia Schiffer with...
Well, I think that's all rumored, isn't it? Isn't that just rumor?
The divorce wasn't rumor. I mean...
Oh!
Something happened, but...
Something...
He's definitely the least scumbaggy of the three of them.
I would definitely agree with that.
Followed by Ratner, and then obviously Bryan Singer.
What's your rating of The Last Stand?
Not as bad. I agree with you. Not as bad as everyone gives it shit for. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 because... on a directing level, it is weird. There's weird cuts. Like when it cuts to Wolverine in the forest, it's like such a jarring. It's like not directed properly, and there's like little spots that just stand out. There's no introduction to Magneto; it just cuts to him.
It feels like they cut to the forest shot like a few times, and it's almost exactly the same aerial.
But yeah, in the forest in particular, that's the Fox Forest. That's famous. It was also used in X-Men X2, and a lot of other X-Men movies make use of this forest outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And it's famously called the Fox Forest because Fox has been using it for not just movies but also like the X-Files when that was shot in Vancouver. So they've been going to this forest for a long fucking time, and Wolverine is where it starts to, really, or sorry, not Wolverine. I'll say even The Last Stand is where it starts to really get grating that like, yeah, forests are cheap, which is why pretty much every Star Wars fan film takes place on Endor.
Oh man, I love that in Gladiator. They were just like, Ridley, yeah, you can just destroy this forest. We're going to deforest this whole section. So go ahead, burn it down, do whatever you want during your battle sequence.
Yeah,
and he
there's
did.
trees on fire. There's trees on fire in that sequence.
He just fucking flat out just lights trees on fire in that scene.
Can't do that to the Fox Forest. We need it next week for Bones.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Or yeah, Or, any of the CW shows, are they maybe renting it out?
They're all in Vancouver, so I wouldn't be surprised if they've also used that forest.
Well, Felk, do you think X-Men Origins Wolverine was filmed in the Fox Forest? It had a lot of lumberjack sequences.
See, I want to say no, because wasn't that shot like in a weird location? Wasn't that all made in like South Africa or something? I seem to recall they shot that one somewhere like Bolivia or someplace.
No, I don't think so. That looks like the whole movie was shot on the soundstage and in Vancouver. I honestly don't know where that movie was filmed, but it does not look like it was shot anywhere other than a soundstage for the most part. And then like Vancouver Forest.
Sunks going to Wikipedia, Australia and New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, New South Wales, Australia, which is why that weird farm guy that Wolverine becomes friends with for like 15 minutes has like an awkward I was like, is this guy have an Australian accent? And he's like, an Iowa. Where are we? Are we in Iowa? Where the fuck are we right now? I thought Alkali Lake was in Canada, right?
Yeah, I think it's like you're near Alberta, Canada, maybe. I don't really know.
So why do so many people have Australian accents? I guess now we know.
Well, I give this my cool boy rating of X-Men Origins Wolverine. I give this a 1 out of 5 boys. I remember seeing this in theaters with you, Felk, and we were laughing our asses off. Bill Bellamy was sitting behind us. He, I'm sure, did not appreciate the constant laughter, but we were laughing at the Seinfeld sitcom-styled green screen out the back of the car. Whenever they were driving, it was all of a sudden like, oh my God, this is NBC like primetime quality green screen. And this is what, 2009, if I'm not mistaken. It was just horrible. This was fucking terrible. And this whole movie felt that way. And there was a leaked unfinished film, if you recall. Cool Boy Noli did see that one. He saw the leaked unfinished version, and he said, guess what? Not much different than the one we saw. Obviously had some animatics. But it was just like one of those things where like, wow, that's how horrible like the CGI was. Because it was really bad.
Yeah, I think they bit off too much they can chew.
And the plot was horrible too, to be honest. It was fucking all over the place.
Everything about that movie is bad. But what what did you rate it at? How many?
1.
1 boy. I'm gonna give it 2, just because of the sheer fact that while it is horrible,
there's a video game that came from it that's amazing.
That's not.
I'll give it another boy for that. Actually,
that's not proper review skills. You shouldn't be.
That's mine.
Factoring in outside factors. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. I don't care if the Chronicles of fucking Riddick has a really great game. The movie's terrible. No, Wolverine. I'm gonna give it 2 stars.
If Disney pays me, I will just give it a good rating. Are you kidding me? I don't have any fucking qualms with anything. I'll just anything influences anything.
I'm gonna give. Well, I'm a proper film critic, and I will give the Wolverine those 2 stars because while terrible and clearly an unfinished product that was released because it hit its release date, it is not super boring. It's so terrible.
Yes, it is. It's so boring.
It's so terrible that at least that we're gonna get to a much more confidently made movie that's incredibly boring down the line. I remember the Wolverine, and I remember the theatrical experience. And I cannot now say that about all the X-Men movies.
I know. I can say I've seen every single X-Men film in theaters. I'm happy to say that. Yes, that's.
I didn't see the Wolverine in theaters, which is not how we move forward. Before we do that, first or like fifth, we should move on to X-Men First Class. First 20 minutes are great because Magneto's fighting Nazis, and Magneto's fuckable Magneto all of a sudden. But the rest of the movie is kind of a mess, and
really,
film fans will notice that there was initially going to be a series of X-Men Origins, and the next one's going to be Magneto, and I believe David S. Goyer had wormed his tendrils into that and had a script, and some of that script was used for First Class, which is the X-Men, which is just the non-X-Men Magneto fighting Nazis in South America. So that shit is the best, and I would prefer to just have that movie. The part where like all the fucking mutant kids, including Jennifer Lawrence, who we didn't know how important she was then, is being like, I'm gonna show you my power, and then like Lenny Kravitz's daughter is like, I'm gonna show you my power, and then a bunch of other people who I sure as fuck don't remember are like showing off their powers. It's not anywhere near as good as when Fassbender is fucking stabbing people with a Nazi knife. Stabbing
Yeah,
Nazis
okay.
with a Nazi knife. And a bartender.
That stuff that you're talking about is very Vaughn-esque. Like, that's what Matthew Vaughn does. I mean, he has that kind of playfulness with film and with his characters where they become like gleeful, almost ridiculously gleeful at times, or even if it involved killing or not killing. It has weird moments, especially with like the way that some of the characters show their powers, like doing hula hoops to fire off energy beams. It's kind of ridiculous. Zoe Kravitz's wings look ridiculous, and but I mean, like, they did a really good job with having Banshee, and I think the stunt double for Zoe Kravitz were at least attached to actual like helicopters and flown around, and they just filmed them. And one of the things about that movie, the CGI is really heavy, but they did almost all that CGI work as the film was shot. It was to help turn it around because it was such a fast turnaround.
Yeah, as I understand it, it wasn't until Days of Future Past that they even started like approaching the budgets that you would expect for like a Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Sam Raimi quality movie, or I mean, just because adjusted for inflation, I'm using something from then. Obviously, adjusted for inflation, that comes in out to like Endgame or maybe even more for Endgame. But obviously those budgets are broken down way differently, and you were actually still building shit back in the days of even First Class. They had sets. They built sets. They didn't build sets for Endgame.
And they built some cool sets too. I mean, one of the things that was a fully CGI set for First Class was actually the mirror room, where they had the reactor and all that stuff for Kevin Bacon's character to walk into.
Yeah,
that was a fully CGI set. So that was like always all the reflections of Kevin Bacon are all CGI recreations.
This is supposed to be a fast.
I know it's supposed to be fast.
Right.
I don't recall if you gave your rating for First Class. What'd you give it?
I'm going to give it 4.5. I think it is the best film up to this point, and probably the best film the best film up to this point.
Okay, so I would give it probably a 4.5 out of 5 boys too. I love it.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Wolverine.
So I'm going to give this one 2 different ratings, and I'll just do it real fast.
I've never realized that's how Wolverine is spelled. God, what a weird name to be so successful for a superhero.
I love it. I love that name. So First Class was really, really, really well written, and I thought that the plot was, fairly well structured, and it did a great job of pulling in real-world events. The Wolverine, for me, was also really well written to me. I actually liked it based on the story that was done in the comics by Chris Claremont, but I felt neutered.
Yeah.
The Wolverine felt neutered, and it wasn't until I saw the Wolverine Unleashed Extended Edition where I saw what James Mangold wanted to actually make, the film he wanted to make, where I was like, wow, he actually made a really good movie. I would say that the theatrical version of the Wolverine is a simple 3.5 out of 5 boy film, and that the Wolverine Unleashed Extended Edition is a 4.5 out of 5 boy.
That much of an improvement, huh? Okay.
Yeah, it's a full boy up. I really like it. Our rating gives it a lot more. The ending is much more streamlined, as far as I'm concerned, as well as it's more interesting. The fight with the ninjas he has through the town and the village on his way up to the tower on the cliff. I like the third act of the Wolverine. I kind of like the video game boss level esqueness of it.
I like that it comes back to being an X-Men movie, because for the first 2 acts, it feels so tonally different, and
I like that kind of tangent, especially when we're in how many films now? 7 films down the line.
This is the
6th
film.
6th film.
Yeah, I guess. The Wolverine. One thing I was surprised about is that for the previous 2 films, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then especially First Class, we begin to see the gradual degradation of the continuity of those films. And First Class ignores the whole thing where Xavier says he was 17 when he met Magneto, because no goddamn way is James McAvoy supposed to be playing 17 in those scenes. And also, never mentioning anything about, oh, by the way, Mystique's my best friend. But they never say she's not his best friend either. And Wolverine also seems to have some inconsistencies about exactly, with how Wolverine became the Wolverine he is now in comparison to X-Men United. But then the Wolverine weirdly opens up as almost a direct sequel to the fallout from The Last Stand, with Wolverine still recovering from memories of killing Jean Grey. They even got Famke back, just to have that consistency. That was a weird choice considering the next movie they'll just say absolute fuck any continuity. And from that point on, it was a continuity nightmare. So, like, The Wolverine is the last movie in which we could pretend this is one consistent franchise that doesn't contradict itself.
I think that really ended for me back with X-Men Origins Wolverine. For me, it's kind of seemed to start there because there was just things in that movie that you're just like, this doesn't match up, and this Stryker doesn't match up with the Stryker we've gotten used to with Brian Cox, in X2 just 2 films ago. So for me, it started kind of slipping then. But I see what you're saying that this is really because James Mangold really made an effort to say, I don't give a fuck. Like, I just don't give a fuck. I don't care. I'm going to make my movie. I want to make the movie I want to make.
But then why does
Fox
he...
was like, fine.
Why did they have to have, like... I guess he just needed for the script, the Wolverine to have... Like, for Wolverine to have, like, gone through some shit. And that's why he's living in seclusion. And they just said, well, we can use what happened at the end of The Last Stand, even though we're at the point where we're kind of trying to get away from The Last Stand. Yeah.
And you are right. From here on out, X-Men films will pick and choose what they deem as continuity from whatever movie they want, and it doesn't have to be the whole film. They'll cherry pick certain elements out of a movie and then completely leave out other elements of that film out and just be like, well,
Moira McTaggart is completely immortal in the world of the X-Men.
Oh, yeah. Well, so is Professor Xavier, technically. He dies in The Last Stand and then shows up out of nowhere and at the end of The Wolverine and then as a character in Days of Future Past.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So what did I give The Wolverine? 3.5? I'll give it 3.5.
3.5? So that's my rating theatrically, but then...
I've only seen theatrical.
The Unleashed is better, and that's also the point. I think The Wolverine was the point where I finally started getting comfortable with X-Men films, just being like, fine. Whatever. You're doing whatever you want. For some reason, we just saw First Class, which was supposed to be kind of a reboot, soft reboot, and now The Wolverine is like a direct sequel to The Last Stand. Whatever. Made it easier moving forward into X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, and Days of Future Past kind of starts at the very end because there's a very end of The Wolverine because there's a post-credit scene that was actually shot by, I think, Bryan Singer. And James Mangold didn't know or care or even want it in his movie, as far as I know, because it has nothing to do with the events of the Wolverine. And now
are you kidding me? He's at the airport.
Yeah, he's flying back.
Yeah, that's when he got off the plane with Yukio or whatever.
Oh, I never thought about. I thought that was just like a random another day that Wolverine was flying.
I think it technically was. I don't think time-wise that would make sense that was literally him just getting off of that private jet and walking through an airport.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the connection that Fox representatives or Fox executives thought.
Okay.
They're like, yeah, let's just connect it that way. He's in an airport. Perfect.
Well, let's move on to X-Men.
And by the way, Bryan Singer was MIA, right, during lots of Days of Future Past. So it might be possible that Bryan Singer was just MIA during the shooting of that airport sequence as well.
I've only heard the MIA stuff for Bohemian Rhapsody, but...
Oh, no, he also went MIA for Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse, he went MIA for that as well.
Well...
And nobody knew where he went. Simon Kinberg is apparently the person who stepped up at those times to shoot the sequences needed for those films.
Yeah.
And that's why he ended up getting on the good graces of Fox executives and being able to film Dark Phoenix. So moving forward with Days of Future Past, I give it 5 out of 5 boys. It is the only other X-Men film for me that stands right there with X2, X-Men United. I love it. I love that it's fan service for all over the place. I love that the continuity doesn't fucking even matter anymore. It is pick and choose who you need for the scene, and then they're there.
Yeah.
That's all it is at that point. And
a lot of stuff that should have had at least a line of dialogue to explain. There needs to be a line of dialogue where Wolverine says to Professor X, so crazy that you were able to have your body cloned but weren't able to cure the paralysis from the cloned body and then transfer your consciousness into it from the coma patient that you would transfer your body into, which was revealed at the end of the Last Stand. And then Professor X is like, yeah, Wolverine. It's also totally cool that Magneto was able to put adamantium back onto your claws because the last time we saw you, you didn't have adamantium on your claws because of the events of the Wolverine. And then Magneto walks in and goes, yeah, I'm really glad that the cure that I was forced to get at the end of The Last Stand wore off as only slightly hinted by me moving a chess piece very, very slightly. But now I've got complete, full return of my powers, which is also how Rogue, who also got the cure in that movie, has her powers back. All that needed to at least be like, you needed 5 minutes to fucking sort that out.
No, I love that that's not sorted out at all. I love it's just like, you don't need to see any other X-Men film to see Days of Future Past, but at the same time,
if you have seen the other movies, it's incredibly confusing.
It makes it more fun. It makes it more confusing and more entertaining.
Like, they specifically brought in... now I can't remember Ellen Page's name. Ellen Page back, like, and Kelsey Grammer to maintain that yes, The Last Stand happened. That's continuity. But we're the depowering at the end of it and the fucking fact that Professor Xavier's dead. We are not going to explain that at all. It is barely mentioned in a post-credit scene.
So have you seen the road cut of?
Yeah, I watched it on HBO. I watched it on HBO.
I liked it. I actually liked the road cut.
I thought it. Well, it does explain the part where Fassbender is getting his like helmet back, because that scene's weird in the original, in the theatrical cut. But when it's intercut with old Magneto doing shit too, that worked way better. That said, it was kind of a. It seemed like it was only in there to get Anna Paquin back, and like, did anyone need more Paquin? We got 7 seasons of True Blood. I got all the Paquin I needed.
But didn't they kill off Iceman in the road cut when he's trying to save Rogue?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that's how.
It doesn't matter if any of them die. They all die.
Well, yeah, because you're right. It doesn't matter if any of them die because they all die and they all come back.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, moving on to things that don't matter. Deadpool. I love Deadpool. I think I gave the original maybe like a 4 out of 5 boys. I love it. I still love it. Maybe I give it a 4.5 out of 5 boys because I've rewatched it and I love it still even more.
Yeah, Cool Boy Nation, for more on our thoughts on Deadpool. We're going to keep this one brief because there's a full Deadpool spoiler cast.
So yeah, the only thing about Deadpool, I don't know if we mentioned ever in our spoiler cast for Deadpool 2, is that we owe everything to the leaker who leaked the visual effects test footage. That's the reason we have Deadpool, and I'm so happy. I like that Deadpool is willing to even go further and make fun of the Fox continuity. I like that he does all that. He essentially fanboys out there for all of us and calls it all out. I like that.
I'm glad that we took time to give thanks to the leaker of the Deadpool footage, which was probably Ryan Reynolds.
I could be Tim Miller though. I mean, it came from his company, right? He owns Blur.
Yeah, he owns Blur.
It was Blur.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably told like an assistant editor that he had no problem firing. That, just leak it, and then if I have to fire you, I can fire you, and I'll hook you up later.
Tim Miller, if you're listening, write into the Cool Boys podcast and tell us what James Cameron's dick tastes like. I'm betting good.
Why would you say such things?
Well, he just got unprecedented power after Deadpool to now be like he's almost like second in charge of the James Cameron empire. It feels like at this point.
All right, but so I mean, you could say the same thing for McG, but that didn't pan out. You could say the same thing.
No, but
like
James Cameron wasn't
Mostow
involved in Terminator Salvation.
Was he involved with Robert Mostow's Terminator 3?
It was Jonathan Mostow, and no, he was
Jonathan
not.
Mostow?
He was not involved in it, nor did he have any control. He's the producer of Terminator.
He's
Dark
involved
Fate.
in Genesis.
No, after the fact, after the movie came out, they were like, "Can we get your stamp?"
All right, we're not doing this. We're not talking about Terminator, but we can talk about James Cameron a little bit more later.
Mm-hmm. All right,
let's
let's move on to X-Men.
You never gave a Deadpool rating.
4 out of 5 boys.
So yeah, move on. X-Men Apocalypse. It's garbage. It's fucking garbage. For me, it's 2 out of 5 boys.
Learning.
What?
I said learning, which is the way Oscar Isaacs plays Apocalypse, learning to speak English. Waste of Oscar Isaacs, and I don't think Oscar Isaacs is that much, honestly, to even waste. But yeah, it's a bad movie on pretty much every account. Had trouble getting through it, honestly. It felt at this point like that. This is when the X-Men movies started being like why are they setting up for another run? Like you're casting a new Jean Grey and Cyclops. I thought we were done with this shit.
Well, I mean, there is a little bit of reason for that. Yes, it does feel like we're going on to a new trilogy in a way, rather than ending a trilogy. But it did not feel like it was ending the X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse was the trilogy ender. It did feel like we're okay. Wait, so this is movie one in a trilogy, and there was going to be a trilogy. Dark Phoenix essentially was going to be a two-parter, but that didn't happen. And also, it's just kind of poorly thought out. A lot of things about Apocalypse. There's no reason to get into any of that now. But one of the biggest things moving into a Dark Phoenix, at least, is that Jean Grey in Apocalypse clearly has the Phoenix Force. And so it is just the weirdest thing that the creatives involved with that film, who were involved with Dark Phoenix, just didn't connect that. I don't know what the fuck that is. That's the oddest thing. Because it's not like a small part of the film at like the very last frame where it's kind of like, do you see the Phoenix under the water? Do you see it? This is like she uses the Force to kill Apocalypse, essentially, right?
Yes.
Like, that's a big fucking deal. That's not just
maybe she was getting it through like Wi-Fi, and it was finding her, and that's why it's coming to her in the next movie.
The way I would rationalize it, or I try to after seeing Dark Phoenix, was that maybe she has some of this naturally in her, and that's why the Phoenix Force was attracted to her in the first place. And that's not necessarily ever really said.
Yeah, maybe this is the shape of the Phoenix, which is what we see at the end of Apocalypse or whatever, and in Last Stand is just her. But this is the actual entity that makes her super powerful. Although she was fucking super powerful in the Last Stand. I understand this movie, X-Men Dark Phoenix is saying, don't worry about Last Stand. That didn't happen. But in the continuity, it did happen, just in a different timeline.
Yeah, exactly. And there's people in that movie that are alive that, die earlier. So that's just odd. So anyways, Apocalypse, did you say your boys?
2.
Yeah, so same. 2. Yeah, 2. All right, moving on to another great film in the franchise, Logan.
Yeah.
I love Logan. Logan is a 4.5 out of 5 boys for me. The only reason it's not a 5 out of 5 boy for me, I just don't like the clone fight. I don't like he fights a clone.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. It's like the only thing about that movie I don't like at all.
Yeah.
That's it. Otherwise, I love it.
It's Hugh Jackman's stunt double with Hugh Jackman's face mo-capped onto it is the villain. And that's, for anytime he's on screen, that was what I was seeing. I was seeing, like, even though that's not Hugh Jackman's body, it's a stunt double's body. It was just trying to, like, do classic Hugh Jackman. And I didn't need that. I wanted old Hugh Jackman. I will also give Logan 4 out of 5 stars. This is also the film that finally says, yeah, fuck continuity. And if there are at least 2 timelines, there's at least 3 timelines, because Logan's its own timeline. Because if this is the future that emanates from the happy future of Days of Future Past, well, that's a big fuck you to the happy future of Days of Future Past, which is, I believe, still the future that the X-Men Dark Phoenix timeline is heading towards. Right. But Logan is just its own separate timeline with no explanation.
Right, because Logan also picks like moments from X-Men to be like continuity and moments from X-Men The Last Stand to be continuity, but then purposely ignores things in X2, X-Men United. And so it's like that kind of weird like cherry picking where it's just like, okay, so James Mangold just took what elements he needed to make the script he wanted to make a great script. And it works.
It's a self-contained issue of the comic book
one-shot
movie series of the Foxman franchise.
Yeah.
It's a one-shot.
I was blown away afterwards, the visual effects of that film, how much of facial replacement there was for Hugh Jackman, how many times they put his face on stunt drivers and stunt coordinator or just stuntmen.
Yeah.
That blew me away. I had no idea you were looking at a CGI face like up close and personal in the frame a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, you knew when it's a clone
impressive.
and they're both in the same shot. Like, okay, that's one of those is face mapped. But like the driving stuff, I just assumed Hugh Jackman did stunt driving, and nope, he's too good for that.
I know, that's what's weird. So it's like you couldn't just be in a rig, like, and the car was driven around by a truck in front of you, and like you're safe, like none of it hurts. It's all, but I guess you're right.
There's a reason why I got Steve McQueen on my wall. It's because he knew how to drive cars and was willing to do that.
The thing about the clone that also upset me is that the clone was designed to look like Hugh Jackman now, younger. And when you go back and you rewatch X-Men and X2, X-Men United, he's not as cut. He's not as veiny. He's not as tan. He's a lot doughier.
Yeah, he's not in that good a shape in the first X-Men movie.
So
he really isn't.
I felt like the clone should have looked like X-Men version of Hugh Jackman, not like a younger version of this roided out Hugh Jackman.
Maybe they cloned him to have more testosterone. I mean, between X-Men and X-Men 2, or X2, X-Men United.
Terrible name.
Yeah, he clearly took some roids because he was competing. Hugh Jackman was competing with Dougray Scott, and it's not like Dougray Scott was like super jacked either, for X-Men.
No, he was not. Well, no, Brian didn't want him jacked.
No, he likes twinks.
Oh, Felky poo. So Felk, hey, have you ever seen Logan Noir?
No.
I've watched like the first 20 minutes, and then I put it on before bed, and I just fall asleep. It's not like it's terrible. It's one of those things that's amazing because I remember listening to the Empire Spoilercast in which James Mangold is talking with one of the reporters, and he was like, discussing the reporters. Excuse me, was discussing doing this thing in black and white. The movie in black and white, considering the trailer was so cool in black and white. And James Mangold's like, yeah, the trailer editor made it black and white. We never intended for our movie to be black and white. And so the reporter was like, well, you should do that for the Blu-ray. And James Mangold was like, you're right, we should do that for the Blu-ray. That's a great idea. Well, I love that James Mangold fucking did that for the Blu-ray. He went back and he color timed it for black and white. That doesn't mean he just threw on a black and white color filter and went, good to go. That would be essentially grayscale. What he went and did is actually went back and color timed it for black and white, so blacks were richer, whites were popping better, and that you did have a scale of gray that you could, see in range, but it was done more in of almost like a film noir comic book graphic novel-esque style, and it's really cool.
I honestly, when directors make their release their movies in black and white, and there's other examples like Mad Max Fury Road has the blood and chrome or black or something in chrome.
That's the way he wanted to make the movie. He did not want to make that movie in color. And when they said you have to make it in color, he said, fine, we'll go full saturated color then.
And there's Frank Darabont's black and white version of The Mist.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He wanted to do that because he wanted to go back to pulp comic type days and stuff like that and the old Twilight Zone kind of feel.
Yeah.
And the studio was like, no, you cannot do that.
All these versions are available on Blu-ray disc.
They are.
But I don't give a fucking shit because movies are in color. If you want to make a movie in black and white, have a movie come out in theaters in black and white.
Woo!
Cold War did it.
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List did it.
Citizen Kane did it.
Yeah. I don't care about black and white versions of movies that are released in color. I'm just going to watch them in color.
All right. Well, okay, speaking of a colored movie, Deadpool 2.
Deadpool 2 in color.
Check out the spoiler cast, please, Cool Boy Nation, if you haven't. It's great. It's a wonderful spoiler cast. It's a wonderful movie. I like Deadpool 2. I give Deadpool 2, I think a 3.5 out of 5 boys maybe in the spoiler cast. I think now I would give it a 4 out of 5 boys. Easy. If it isn't there, it's definitely 4 out of 5. It makes me laugh every time. I love the Celine Dion Ashes song. It's incredible. It's perfect. And I've gone and bought the Deadpool 2 Super Duper Cut. I love that. I can't get enough Deadpool 2. And I went and bought Once Upon a Deadpool. And let me just say, Fred Savage kills it. I fucking love Fred Savage and Once Upon a Deadpool.
All right, since you're going to talk about it anyways, what's the fucking point of that version? Was it to just get it in theaters as PG-13?
Yeah, I think it was literally just to get it in theaters as PG-13 to do two things. One, make more money for Fox because they're about to lose Fox. And two, let's test Deadpool for Disney, and Disney's probably excited about this too, and see if they can make a PG-13 Deadpool that makes money.
I guess they should just make give them one more if they want one more to finish out the Deadpool trilogy.
So Disney and Bob Iger has flat out said, "Don't worry, you're getting more Deadpool, and it's Ryan Reynolds, and it's not changing, and it's the same creative teams. We are not fucking with Deadpool." He's pretty much. I think he specifically said, quoted, "We will not fuck with Deadpool. Deadpool is perfectly fine, yo."
Yeah.
So Deadpool's fine, yo.
That was a quote.
So Felk, what would you give Deadpool 2?
Deadpool 2 was. I gave it a rating already, so now I don't remember what my rating was. But this is
but what is it now?
My memory rating, 2.5.
Yeah,
it was fine, but I don't really remember it. I remember Brad Pitt's cameo, which was like 2 frames.
And Matt Damon cameo.
I don't remember Matt Damon. Matt Damon had a cameo.
Yeah, he's one of the cowboys in the beginning, or the
oh
the
yeah,
guy
nobody
in the back of the
recognized
truck.
him.
Right, because he's wearing all the makeup. All right, Deadpool 2, I would say, also 4 out of 5 boys. And Once Upon a Deadpool, also 4 out of 5 boys. It's funny. It's good at PG-13. And I just, like I gotta say again, Fred Savage, amazing.
All right.
We're here! Dark Phoenix time.
Actually, you have it written as X-Men Dark Phoenix, but I believe the title of this film is just Dark Phoenix.
All right, So domestically for us, the United States, it is called Dark Phoenix because clearly marketing is trying to distance themselves from the X-Men name because they're going to try to revamp that name in not too many years from now under a different brand called the MCU. So it was not called X-Men Dark Phoenix for the domestic United States. However, internationally, the film was X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, you know who we don't give a shit about here on the Cool Boys podcast?
Just the majority of our audience that's international.
The international audience.
Yeah, a good chunk of our audience.
Oh, I'm a big fan of the Cool Boys podcast here in Glastonshire. Like, I don't fucking care.
I love you, Cool Boy Nation in Kenya. I love you, Cool Boy Nation in Russia. I love you, Cool Boy Nation in Poland. I love you, Cool Boy Nation in Japan. I love you, Cool Boy Nation in the Philippines. I love you, Cool Boy Nation in Turkmenistan.
This could go on forever. Are these even places we've actually gotten hits? We haven't gotten a hit in Turkmenistan.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
All right, stop naming countries.
Saudi Arabia.
I don't want them to listen to us.
United Arab Emirates.
No thank you.
UAE. Yeah. Iran.
No, we haven't had any of these. Are you? What are you doing? You're just naming countries? Are these actual? Have we actually gotten a hit from Iran?
I don't think we actually got any hits from Iran.
All right. What's your goddamn quick cool boy rating of X-Men internationally known X-Men Dark Phoenix?
I give this movie a stellar, pun intended, a stellar 3.5 out of 5
really,
boys.
They don't go anywhere near any stars. just barely into space.
So yeah, 3.5 out of 5 boys. I like this movie a lot more, I think, than I was expecting. I went in there thinking it was going to be shit. I was prepped on this movie was going to be shit. I was told it was shit from a bunch of reviewers. I was told it was shit from like cinema audience scores and whatever. And I just was like, okay, this movie's going to be shit. And I went in, and I think it must have been because my expectations were low. The hype level was so low that I was willing to accept whatever movie I got. And I think a lot of it is Hans Zimmer, honestly.
Hans Zimmer did the score?
Yeah, and I think he killed it. I love the score.
Didn't he say he wasn't going to do any superhero movies after Batman v Superman?
Well, obviously he continued to do more shit.
Yeah, maybe this was shot before Batman v Superman. This movie's been in the can for a long time.
Yes, this movie was supposed to come out last November?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then James Cameron was all like, "No, do not put it out because I want you to put Alita Battle Angel out instead." And then Fox was like, "But it's an X-Men movie, Jimmy."
That didn't happen.
Yes, it did.
No,
yes,
no,
it did.
that was a cover. That was a cover for the fact that the movie was a mess and they needed to rework it.
No, it is very clear that there's been very clear rumors.
Yeah, and then Captain Marvel came out, and the original ending of Dark Phoenix was too much like Captain Marvel, so they reshot it. All the train shit was a reshoot at the end of that movie because it originally involved her like blowing up spaceships in space or something. This is things. I know these things.
They say it's been revealed that the date change came as a result of James Cameron pushing for Alita Battle Angel to be moved from a crowded December to that February slot in order to give it a better chance of success, despite pleas from Kinberg, producer Hutch Parker, and Fox's Emma Watts not to do it.
Please don't give us an extra 5 months to fix our shit movie.
Yeah, Stacey Snyder gave in to the filmmaker's demands. She's like, "Sure, Jimmy, whatever you want. Can we get more sandwiches? Fist me harder." Anyways,
No, you had to make it sexual.
Why was it important to them that this was not happen? Well, Dark Phoenix was not meant to be a summer movie. They never designed it to be an anti-apocalypse, to have a less spectacle scale, big for an off season, too small for summer. So essentially, what?
None of that's true.
None of that's true.
I don't think it is.
You don't know what you're talking about. You're out of control.
I think this movie was So you gave your review. I'm going to give mine. I facilitated between half a boy and one boy.
Really?
I texted you during. So I saw this movie in a theater, and I was completely fucking alone. And it was, even though it was a small theater, it was the biggest theater at the entire theater itself, because theater both means the complex plus the individual movie theater you're in. I saw this. There's nobody seeing this fucking movie. It's its first week of release. So that was weird and kind of creepy to begin with, to the point where I was like, am I even seeing a real movie? And it's not. I was texting you during it because obviously I wasn't going to annoy anyone else with the glare of my phone, so I was just checking Twitter throughout it. I was bored as fuck the entire time. I thought, this is obviously, it doesn't feel super cobbled together. It just feels like there's everybody is just there. Everybody is just fulfilling their contract, especially Jennifer Lawrence.
They're not fulfilling their contracts, though. That's the whole thing. They were all off contract at this point. They all came back for this movie.
Well, then they're all coming back for one less extra paycheck.
That's what most people thought it was. But it was designed to be a two-parter, and then Fox was like, "Nah, figure out to do this in one. Just do this movie in one movie." And
there's barely one movie's worth of stuff in this movie.
Well, yeah, that's kind of funny to think. Yeah, it's not even a 2-hour film, right? It's under 2 hours.
What?
And this is supposed to be a two-parter. What?
All right, let's get into it. Let's start with.
So wait, just to be clear, your review. I'm sorry, your rating.
Yeah.
Is half a boy to one boy.
I'm gonna give it 1 because I stayed and there was some cool shit from Fassbender. I was about to walk out of the theater right before Fassbender showed up, and I literally almost forgot that he was gonna be showing up in this movie. So
yeah, he comes late. Yeah.
Yeah. Once he does show up, I was like, all right, I'll stay for Fassy.
Just because you're talking about Fassbender showing up, I have to say, that's one of my favorite shots in the whole fucking movie. When he's on that deck and then he just fucking magnaforces himself all the way to, he just levitates all the way to Jean. That's maybe about 25 yards or so. That's awesome. And I'm not entirely sure if that's CGI with just a practical ending, or if they practically did that from that deck all the way to that location, that spot.
Yeah.
It looked awesome. I loved it.
I gave this movie the worst of any X-Men movie. Just to clarify, because I even though it's technically better than X-Men Origins Wolverine,
it
is not more entertaining.
It's better than Apocalypse for me, way better than Apocalypse.
Really? I mean,
yeah.
With Apocalypse, I at least disappointment was gradual. With this one, it just right about the 22-minute mark. The opening's kind of cool, and we'll get into that. But the X-Men in space, I was like, this is better directed than I thought it would be. After that, every scene of dialogue was very poorly written and hastily written, I felt like. But
it is hastily written. So, Felk, the movie was being rewritten on the fly during production.
It feels like it.
So Simon Kinberg was doing the Joss Whedon thing, where he was writing scenes overnight. He would script ideas out with the cast, and then go write the scene overnight, and then come back the next morning and be like, "Boom, here's some new lines." So that was happening. And Ty Sheridan, I think, has said that, if I'm not mistaken, as well as no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Ty Sheridan. It was Jessica Chastain and Sophie Turner have both said that's they actually worked with Simon Kinberg in that way. So yeah, the script was absolutely hastily written. It is hastily written, and sometimes it works really well, like Mission Impossible Fallout, where it's written on the fly. Sometimes it works really well, like in Iron Man, where it's written on the fly. A lot of Marvel films are written on the fly. But this one, yeah, you could see, there was cracks in it for sure. There were cracks in the script because of that, and there were moments that felt, oh, let's just put the characters here because then we can just have characters in a scene together. And specifically, one of those we can talk about in a bit, or might as well talk about it a bit. But it's the bonfire party, the kids' bonfire party. It just felt really out of place scene, and it was just so that they could have a bunch of characters in one spot. I was
confused because they were also near the beach with Jessica Chastain, and I'm like, are we nearby that?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the Jessica Chastain thing. I felt like that was like what? Did they ever locate that? Was that like the Carolinas? It seemed like Cocoon, almost like Florida too.
I thought it was right down the street from the beach party that we cut to immediately afterwards, and then it's like maybe these are very different locations. Oh, who cares? It's Dazzler.
They are. No, yeah, they're very different. Yeah, finally Dazzler. Finally Dazzler. Right. Yeah.
Let's talk about the opening. We have to get on the train here. Get through this thing.
So first things first, you get the Fox logo. But do we get an X that holds a little longer and does dissolve, not as quickly as the rest of the logo?
Yes, we did.
No, not this time.
Yes, we did. Yes, it did.
Oh, we did?
We did. I specifically noted it. Yes, the X thing still happened. It went red. It was as it darkened down. It went red specifically for the Phoenix.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
I knew it.
Okay.
I don't know what to say. Here's the truth. I turned away at that moment.
That was a weird.
I didn't even see.
That was a weird waste of time for this episode.
I didn't even know. There's another moment later I have no idea about too because I took a piss. I took a piss right after Mystique died. I don't know what happened actually. So I left as the overhead shot of the funeral, and then I walked back in, and it's Patrick Stewart. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, it's James McAvoy and Nicholas Hoult, and they're just like on a table talking about like I met Mystique right there in this kitchen. She was. Whatever, all that shit.
I was on Twitter a lot, so I did not pay attention to I mean, I
Were
paid
you
attention.
getting any hits?
What?
Did you get any Twitters?
I got lots of Twitters.
Woo!
All the fucking Twitters in the world, man.
Yes.
All right.
Well, guys. So Felk.
There's just one of me now.
So Felk. I love that this movie began, and I immediately went, "Oh, did I stumble into the Shazam movie theater?" Because we're getting an opening car crash with a character again in the backseat killing.
It's beat for beat the opening of Shazam, basically.
Yeah, I know. I felt bad for Simon Kinberg. I'm like, oh, you totally wrote this, and then Shazam came out, and you went, fuck! Because there's a whole point later on in the third act where he did the same thing because of Captain Marvel, where he had to rewrite the whole third act because Captain Marvel apparently did the same thing that Phoenix did, and he's just like, fuck! Fox like, you have to rewrite that. So, poor Simon Kinberg.
Poor everyone who's in Brie Larson's wake.
Poor everyone.
She doesn't care who she destroys.
She's destroyed Simon Kinberg's life.
Yeah. Anyways,
so Jean Grey's origin happens in 1975. If I'm not mistaken, Days of Future Past took place in 72, 73? I think it was 73. So this is 2 years after. So this is when Professor X is now good and sobered up from his crack or whatever the fuck he was on. What was he? Is Smack? He was on Smack. He was on Smack. Yeah, so wait, okay.
Let him walk.
X-Men First Class is 1962. X-Men Days of Future Past is 1973. X-Men Apocalypse is 1983. And X-Men Dark Phoenix is 1992 when we flash forward after that car accident.
Wait, Apocalypse is 83?
83, yeah.
So Jean Grey's... Wait, how old is Jean Grey supposed to be? I guess she'd be like 18.
Who the fuck knows, dude? She's like 30-something in the year 2005. like when was she born? She's like 10 in 75.
Yeah.
So she was born in like 65 or something. But somehow she's not 50 in 2005.
So when X-Men reboots in the MCU, they have to be smart enough to ditch World War II because you cannot have Magneto be that fucking old.
Correct. Yeah. No, you can't. Nope. Also, I love about this prologue, by the way, we get with the car, is that it just completely is like, hey, you remember that X-Men The Last Stand prologue? Yeah, totally didn't happen like that. Like, wait, this is it was so vastly different because that X-Men The Last Stand prologue took place in the 90s, right? But like, it doesn't, like, it takes place, the 1975 sequence takes place in the 90s in The Last Stand. But in this movie, it's taking place,
don't worry about it.
I can't help it. Sometimes I just can't help it. It's hard. It's hard.
I'm just kind of wondering what will Magneto's origin be if they have to update him?
Yeah, what is it? Oh my God, is he part
well,
of some like?
They could use something more recent because
He's from Rwanda.
No, well, maybe if they want to make him black, they could do Rwanda. They could do Nikolai Ceausescu. They could if they want to cast a person of color, they could do like the Pinochet thing. There's genocides to pull from.
For sure.
Oh
yeah.
You don't need the Nazis for that.
The whole great continent of Africa gives you genocide,
Yeah, but then he'd have to be black. I mean, maybe they want black Magneto. I don't know. I think it's a
fucking,
little too on the nose for a character who's clearly based off Malcolm X.
Make it Idris Elba.
Too old. He's too old for everything. No.
So then, okay, so now after 1975, we flash forward to 1992. It's where, our present day will be for the rest of this film.
Woo.
And we get the Phoenix origin. As Felk mentioned earlier, we get X-Men in space.
Yeah.
We get the giant Phoenix Force comes in and takes over Jean Grey and all that shit, right? And
Fucks her
I
good.
thought it was actually really well done, and I thought the music did a good job of conveying, like, the fast-paced, aspect of the plot, or not the plot, the story. It was moving quick, and I really was like, wow, I'm really digging this opening, and I really like all we got in that moment, and I liked how we got the setup then next to the aliens. Like I said earlier, it reminded me a lot of Cocoon. Had that kind of feel with those just glowing dots coming in, and like
Cocoon.
What?
Did you recently watch Cocoon?
No, but have you never seen Cocoon?
I've seen it. I don't really remember it much. I think Cocoon is an old movie with old people in it.
It is. It's exactly what it is. Back when old people watched movies.
I didn't mind the opening because I did like they did kind of firmly like make it clear. They probably should have done it a little bit better for mass audiences, but they did kind of try to make it clear like this is the happy timeline because of the Days of Future Past, and the president's calling the X-Men, and it's on the
They're
news.
heroes.
The X-Men is coming in. Like this is a different timeline. This is the happy timeline. Where the X-Men can be considered heroes, and that lasts for 15 minutes, and then
of course.
they're being imprisoned by the government again.
But if I was just watching this movie and never knew about anything about X-Men, I would have just assumed, based on the way that the structure was happening, that I was waiting for the rug to be pulled out from underneath us, right? I mean, that was designed into it.
The rug being mutant freedom.
No, just being like something having to happen, like, in this movie to make happiness go away, and the team being schismed because of a death of a character, because a character went crazy with mental illness and whatnot, dissociative identity disorder and all that type of shit. But anyways, the aliens I really liked, but it was
You like the aliens?
I like the aliens, the Dabari. It's an actual Marvel alien, species, but it's clear they were supposed to be the Skrulls.
Is it the Skrulls in the comics?
No, it's the Shi'ar Empire in the comics, but
I wish they had gotten the Brood in there. Even though the Brood is just a ripoff of Xenomorphs, I would like to have seen some weird shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of get that with the Outriders in, like, Endgame and Infinity War. I mean, that kind of, like, insanity level of creature, just a beast, unleashed.
I guess.
But in this, they obviously didn't want to go Shi'ar Empire. I maybe that happened when they had to convert the film from a two-parter into a single film. They were like, okay, we can't just do the Shi'ar Empire. And maybe they tried to push Skrulls because they wanted to get it out before Marvel, because they did it earlier with Quicksilver. They got Quicksilver out there first, so they owned, they essentially owned the public's vote on Quicksilver right away too. So maybe they tried that with Skrulls, didn't work out. Captain Marvel got them out there fast, and they were just like, fuck it. They got bought by Disney, and Disney's just like, do a quick change, because all that you could have done to make them Skrulls could have been changed in simply subtitles. And so they say Dabari in subtitles. They say it in the alien language. They say her name in the alien language of Vuk. Vuk is essentially an actual character from the comics as well that actually deals with the Phoenix storyline. It's from a planet that gets like wiped out by the Phoenix Force. But I mean, at the same time, she could have easily been, the Skrull Queen. She could have maybe been, a pseudo Shi'ar Empress kind of thing, like all that type of stuff. But I liked what they did with them. I thought it was really interesting. I liked the way they did the way they would kind of sim, I guess, to use a word from Captain Marvel, they would sim the other characters. And I didn't like, though, the weird fucking move they had where they would twist your sternum, and it just looked like all of a sudden they threw that iPhone filter just onto somebody. Like, it was the quickest CGI thing. Like, just spin it, just rotate it. Did it feel weird?
I didn't even notice.
You didn't notice the damage they were doing to the people?
No. Twitter was probably a little too interesting in that part.
Oh my god, so much Twitters were going on?
Yeah. I stopped caring about this movie about 30 minutes in when I started realizing that there was no fucking point to this movie existing. Because I'm watching a dead franchise. It's like after a series is canceled after like 7 episodes, but you
exactly
really
like
love
that.
the first 5 and 2 episodes still have to air, and you're like, oh, we'll see what happens on this week's Terriers. Doesn't matter. There's not a second season coming.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. That's exactly how this movie felt. It was when you're watching, you're like, wow, I wonder if they're going to do a good job of summing this up because the show got canceled before they were done like writing the season.
It's like people who
can't wait to see this works.
Who fucking named their miscarriages. Like, oh, that was Timmy. We lost
Ew.
Timmy. Well, we lost Dark Phoenix, but we still had to
We
release
did.
it in theaters and pretend it was a movie.
Yeah, I liked it. I did like it. I actually was impressed with a lot of aspects of it, and I'm really impressed with the third act. It's like, for me, it's like World War Z, where it's just like one of those things you're like, wow, you spent a lot of money on this third act reshoot because it is seamless. It is very seamlessly put into the movie.
Yeah,
Well, okay.
I wouldn't have known that there was reshoots. I would have known that I like nothing in this movie like seems like important or good or new.
No, it doesn't. It did not seem new. It seemed like writing like past mistakes. A lot of it did seem like that. But I did enjoy the film just as a movie, just like as and here's the thing. A lot of people called it like off the rails, and I wouldn't say it was off the rails, but I would say that if you were expecting to get, all of a sudden out of nowhere an incredibly good X-Men film that, made sense and made continuity all of a sudden tie itself in
Logan.
and well, exactly. So like my point is like if you just X-Men movies have never been like Marvel comic book films. They've always been this weird version of it. Even to like the costume design, leather, right? Like, and then on top of that, that's reused in so many X-Men films. But then The Last Stand even has a costume design given to like all the Brotherhood of the Mutants, right? All those mutants have like this weird, like gross, like dirty clothing, black, grayish, beigeish clothing, and that's transferred into Dark Phoenix too. Like
I see that is down on the agenda here, and I did not know what you were talking about. I didn't notice that their costumes were similar to The Last Stand.
Yeah, oh no, for sure. Like they definitely had similar like costume design, and even Jean Grey wore almost an exactly the same outfit in the third act of Dark Phoenix as she does in The Last Stand.
Well, they like putting her with that like brown red leather.
Exactly. Well, they're trying to create this weird like Phoenix look rather than like doing the green and yellow costume the Phoenix wears. But there's the idea that ever assuming these X-Men films were ever going to be the MCU or ever going to be the DC, they never were going to be. So for me, I went into this film expecting X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I got nothing near that for me. Like honestly, for me, this movie was above that, beyond that, for sure.
Yeah, her costumes. I was thinking. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember if it was just like a fucking thong like everyone else wears, like Psylocke, and that's why they couldn't do it. But it's not like super revealing. You could at least made her costume green. I guess sometimes it's red.
It's red when she's the Dark Phoenix. Yeah.
No.
So, anyways, well, going back to kind of like the movie and where we are with the movie. So, the bonfire. We kind of talked about this already. This is where we find out her nickname by all the kids at school is Phoenix. So it's once again, all right. So you can't call the fucking cosmic force Phoenix. Like it's just, she has to get some stupid thing. Like, isn't it in X-Men The Last Stand? That's what Professor X called like her split personality was the Phoenix. Or some shit like that.
Yeah, I think that is correct.
It's just stupid. And that's the parts where you can see that this is him taking the Phoenix story that Kinberg wanted to write, and trying to right the wrongs of The Last Stand. And there's a lot of those moments in this movie, a lot of beats that match up to that, especially the beats after the bonfire sequence with Jean running back to her childhood home and then end up killing like a big member of the team. But the bonfire, there's one interesting part of it that I like. It's when Mystique and Beast are hanging out watching the security footage, and Mystique says, "The last of the first class." And I actually liked that line because that felt like, okay, we're kind of trying to tie in a little bit more of the series back into it. And
I guess
anytime they did that, like it gave weight to the characters. Their characters especially had so much more weight. The moment after this when Mystique is killed and Beast is upset, like you feel for Beast more. You understand it more, and it's great that they bring it back because it is a relationship that has been developed from First Class all the way through Days of Future Past, through Apocalypse, and then into Dark Phoenix. So that is awesome. And a lot of people would even say that because of the death of Mystique, not thinking of the death of Mystique, but looking at Magneto, going, why is Magneto even in this movie? And going, well, if you had someone who was clearly loved throughout the canon by two characters, you would expect those two characters to be involved if the purpose of the film's narrative was to have that main character die, Mystique dying. So
Mystique died because Jennifer Lawrence didn't want to wear the blue shit for the whole movie.
I
She
know,
wanted out
that's
as
the
fast
other
as
thing.
possible.
Once she gets in the mansion, she immediately goes straight into blonde J-Law.
The whole point of Mystique was that she didn't fucking transform. She just was naked in blue because she didn't give a shit because that's what her natural form. But unfortunately, they cast an actress who won 2 Oscars and probably fucked Darren Aronofsky for some reason. And she just didn't really like getting painted blue. And they don't really have the budget to convincingly blue her up in post, I guess. So they just, any excuse they can have to just Jennifer Lawrence her.
Well, this movie was great because they were able to have they only blued up from like her neck up and then just the hands. Yeah, it was like, that's it.
Rebecca Romijn was fucking naked wearing a thong and pasties and otherwise blue paint. And I think Jennifer Lawrence only did that for that one shot in First Class where she's naked in like that kitchen. And that's what the movie has, a PG-13 rating. It says for nudity. And I'm pretty sure that it's just got to be her ass and tits. We're just a little too jiggly.
I think they figured out a way to do it faster in Days of Future Past where they were essentially gluing on large.
It was a bodysuit.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was a bodysuit. I think it was large sections were glued on. And they were able to do like larger sections at a time. But I think for the most part, she was still technically nude for parts of Days of Future Past. Not all scenes, but some scenes. And I think it was by Apocalypse they had completely gotten rid of all of that. It was all bodysuit in Apocalypse.
Okay.
Because it's obvious in Apocalypse when she's finally in a bodysuit.
The problem is that Mystique doesn't have a power that really works for superhero shit. She's an espionage character meant for very specific tasks. Yeah. And in a big battle, her power is pretty much useless. The only time we ever see her do anything power related in a battle scenario is when she briefly confuses somebody in Days of Future Past by like turning into Kevin Bacon. And that's the only time. Other time she's just barking orders because like, well, she can't do anything because her power is she doesn't even use her power to any advantage in this entire movie.
She's about as useless as Mantis, except she has a little bit better fighting skills. That's about it.
Mantis can at least be used in a tactical situation to neutralize an enemy, though.
Well, yeah, and so can Mystique if she's all super, turns into the thing you want.
Not if you know that they're shapeshifters. One's actual mind control. One's just like light deception.
You're telling me if Mystique showed up, right? Rebecca Romijn Mystique or J-Law Mystique, your pick. So you're already super hot, but then she's all like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna turn into Angela White for you. But would you not be interested?
No, because I know in the middle of a life or death battle.
Yes, in the middle of a life or death battle.
Let's move on.
Falk, this is an important question. I need answers
Too many suburbs fights in the X-Men franchise.
How many? What are you talking about?
X2 has the fight outside of fucking Iceman's house. Last Stand has the fight outside of Jean Grey's childhood home that she goes back to, and then Professor X and Magneto show up, just like in this goddamn movie. And then,
Right,
and then
but
this-
other than Professor X dying, it's Mystique, right? Yeah, so.
and this-
Oh, I love how Quicksilver gets wiped out, by the way. Did you like that at all? Because it's like one of those moments where you're kind of like,
Oh, the Man
oh,
of
here
Steel
we
moment?
go. What?
the Man of Steel moment where she's just as fast as Quicksilver.
Kind of, yeah, like from Justice League with the Flash
Yeah, Justice
and
League.
Man of Steel.
That's what I meant.
But like I totally
meant
loved it
Justice
because
League.
it's like, I know you meant Justice League. I gotcha.
Justice
But I really loved it because it's like one of those moments you watching it and you're like, okay, we're gonna get that scene again where Quicksilver's badass. We've seen 2 movies of Quicksilver being incredibly badass in slow mo, and this time Jean Grey just essentially moves a couple pieces of wood, and he wipes out. But we get to see how tragic of a wipeout it can be when he's moving that quick. He fucks himself up so hardcore. It was really awesome. I like that. It's a reality.
He's not in the final battle, is he? He's not on the train.
He isn't. He's so fucked up from that wipeout. I mean, it shows the physics, the reality of the physics of moving quick and what happens when you miss your fucking step. While Aaron Taylor Johnson kind of grabs onto Mjolnir and then like lets go and just kind of gets a little bit hurt, and then
Yeah.
Captain America's like, stay down.
Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver doesn't even have to wear goggles to protect his eyes.
He does not.
I don't know why.
He's too fast. He can dodge the molecules. So after Mystique is killed, and Beast is super fucking sad, and everyone feels like shit because that's not what they wanted to have happen, we go to essentially a funeral, but then we go to Genosha. Genosha?
They never say that in the movie, though, do they?
They never say it.
It's a floating fucking island in the comics and cartoons, right?
I thought it was no. It's an island for sure, but I don't think it was a floating
I think
island.
it floats. I thought it fucking floats.
It floats?
It floats. Doesn't it float?
Like, you mean floats in the air or floats on the water? What
In
do
the
you
air.
mean? Are you thinking of
Savage
Asteroid
Land?
M?
Maybe I am.
Magneto has an asteroid that you could assume is like, floating, I guess, but it's just an orbit.
It is just a fucking island.
Yeah, it's just an island. But yeah, they never mention it by name, which is weird. And then they never establish it at all. All of a sudden, you're just like
They never
in some,
establish
like-
if it's an island.
They just establish all of a sudden that you're in some like podunk fucking like town made out of like old ships and stuff like that and cargo crates and things. It's weird, but I liked a little bit of it for the idea of like once I said earlier again, Magneto. I liked Magneto's role in this film. I liked the way Fassbender carried himself in this movie. I think I have to say I love Fassbender more in the role of Magneto than I do McKellen. And I really liked Ian McKellen.
No, yeah, Fassbender's much better.
Who do you think's better though, McAvoy or Stewart? I say Stewart.
Stewart's much better.
Yes, Stewart's way better. By the way, both of them in Days of Future Past playing off each other was a brilliant scene. I love that. I love that.
I thought
scene.
it was fine. I thought it didn't distract. It was nice to see them together, but other than that, nothing special. I never fully accepted McAvoy as Professor X. He always seemed too young and too flippant.
He seemed too young, and that was very obvious to me, especially when he started having to shave his head for the role.
Yeah, when seeing him as 90s Professor X, he doesn't look like he's old enough yet. And obviously that's a problem because none of the actors have aged. And fucking Beast.
Oh yeah,
Beast looks
over
great.
everyone over the course of 40 years looks immaculate.
Yeah.
They haven't aged at all.
What's Beast's name? Holt? Nicholas Holt?
Nicholas Holt, yeah. Hank
Also
McCoy.
giving him the whole thing where he can change back and forth and look
He's
normal.
just the Hulk. He's just the Hulk.
But that completely like fucks up the point of Beast, because the point of Beast is that he gets persecuted because he looks so goddamn weird. So when he can look normal whenever he wants, that's dumb. And also that's just because Nicholas Holt's pretty, and he didn't age for 40 years.
I think you're right. I think it is because yes, he's a beautiful actor, but I think it's also because they want to do the Hulk and they couldn't, so they just did their version of the Hulk, which is he can just turn on the Beast and turn off the Beast. It doesn't make any sense to the character. But once again, this is really the furthest thing from the Marvel X-Men. So that's why when X-Men is rebooted in the MCU, it's going to be vastly different. It'll have a totally different feel because it'll be super comic booky and following those worlds. Well, not following the comic book world again, though, in our film, Dark Phoenix. When we have Magneto, we have Quicksilver now, of course, conveniently, as Felk mentioned, out of the plot.
Yeah.
And so, because he's out of the plot, we don't have to worry about his character at all during the third act. But also now we don't have to worry about any callbacks to X-Men Apocalypse, in which Quicksilver knows Magneto's his daddy, and he doesn't go and tell him because, he's like, Mystique's like going to say something. He's like, don't say anything, Mystique. It's not my time yet.
Well, they can't do any House of M shit, right? Because that's
no,
all.
not anymore.
No, so, they just dropped it.
They just dropped it. They completely dropped it. So Jean Grey goes to talk to Magneto, right? We get the sequence that's almost comical, almost like a Benny Hill scene, in which when Jean Grey's there and Magneto is like talking to the U.S. Army that comes in after Jean Grey, looking for Jean Grey.
Yeah.
She shows up and starts fucking with the helicopters, and so Magneto starts trying to protect the helicopters. And people have been complaining, like, oh my God, the actors look so silly when they're holding their hands there, standing there, using their force powers. And I did not mind that at all. But for me, what was ridiculously Benny Hill comical to me was when fucking Magneto's like yelling. I don't even know what the fuck he's yelling, but he's yelling something like, I can't hold it much longer.
Yeah.
And then the soldier's like, oh! And all the soldiers start like scrambling to get in the
They
helicopter.
get on the helicopter that's being.
Yeah, what guy's like dangling off? And I'm thinking to myself, why would you get on this helicopter that's under attack by 2 mutants?
I'd run the fuck away.
I'd run the fuck away, exactly. But instead, they all like scramble the helicopter, pile on like some kind of Three Stooges act, and then Magneto throws it out of Jean Grey's grasp. It didn't really make sense. It's stupid. It was a stupid scene.
Dude, I'm looking at fucking comic depictions of goddamn Genosha, and it's like X-Men Dark Phoenix might depict like it doesn't look. They didn't even come close to try and get it comic book accurate. It's just it's one field with like a couple of plants.
Yeah, they rented out the back of a park for about a day and shot all the scenes they needed to. Yeah, it's not very well adapted. I will have to agree. But it's not supposed to be. I mean, this is not an adapted series at all from the comics. It's only adapted in name.
Oh, Bri wouldn't allow that.
He did not allow comics on set, as we mentioned many times before in the past. So
if he saw you in the comic book, he'd fuck your mouth.
Yeah, and force you into a pool party and put your head underwater until you suck this dick. Yeah. Allegedly. So once, Jean Grey bounces on Genosha and Magneto, and he's like, whose blood is that? Which is just kind of ridiculous. I love that he kept asking because you could tell he was getting more panicky. Like, oh, come on. Who'd you kill? Is this Charles? Did you kill Charles?
I cannot watch the goddamn movies without just thinking of the fact that Shawn Ashmore with his fucking twin was staying at Bryan Singer's house for 6 months before they shot those movies, and you can't watch those films the same way anymore.
It does make it really sad when X-Men does the little ice rose and he gives it to Rogue. It's like he's pleading for any kind of connection at that point from anyone. Anything.
Put that ice roll on your butthole because it's probably sore.
Life has been really hard for me. Anyways, so of course Magneto eventually finds out who the blood is. It's Raven's blood, and Beast is the one who tells him. And I liked how they were able to bond. That seemed to be like nice. Once again, a nice callback to the writing that they weren't necessarily the best of buds or comrades at any point. They've always seemed to be at each other's odds because of their love for Raven Darkholme.
Yeah.
For Mystique.
I guess.
So I like that
certainly
they kind
not
of
set
joined
up in the first three. Well, there's no Beast in the first 3 X-Men movies.
No, there isn't.
You never
He's in X2. He's in X2, but only on the TV screen as Hank McCoy, which also, by the way, is continuity now because he bounces in and out of Blue and Normal Human, even in X2 and Last Stand.
Yeah, they never did the X-Men first because, like in the first season of the cartoon, Beast is just in jail because he's Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, he's like 2 episodes. The first or second episode, he gets arrested.
No, he's in jail for a long time, like a lot of episodes.
I'm pretty sure the entire first season, you're correct. It's like maybe the end of the first season, they finally break him out. Maybe he doesn't get broken out until the second season, actually. I don't even know.
They never do that arc.
No, it's a boring arc, honestly, to give Beast.
No.
Just hanging upside down in a prison reading books, saying, like, trust me, just we'll make it work.
If you prick me, do I not bleed?
So, I really like the sequences we got next in New York City.
Okay.
I liked a lot of that. I liked the Phoenix exposition. I thought that was really cool, and I thought Hans Zimmer's score was soaring and taking me to all these.
I didn't notice the score
bodies.
at all. That's really weird that it's Hans. I didn't even think about the score.
Dude, it's a good score. If you go back and just try to find the score like on Spotify or something like that or whatever, just try. It's really good. It's a really good score.
I wonder how they got him. This whole movie felt.
What?
I wonder how they got him. This whole movie felt cheap.
Yeah, they spent money on this movie. They spent a lot of money on this movie. I think this is the most expensive X-Men film to date, budget-wise.
It doesn't look it.
Well, I mean, because a lot of that's because they spent a lot of money on a third act, on a new third act. But leading up to that new third act, the New York City scenes, I loved it when the Brotherhood of Mutants shows up and fights the X-Men. I love that they did not do it in their costumes. I know some people are upset because they're like, oh my god, they should have done it in the costumes. But I don't need that. I like it when things are more realistic at times. And I don't need characters to be in costumes who would not necessarily be in costumes. And I always felt like the X-Men films were that type of film. And I've always liked that they were that halfway point between DC of being way too gritty and Marvel, which is almost way too campy and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I mean, obviously Marvel isn't always campy and fun. I mean, Endgame was very campy, but I would say Infinity War was not very campy at all.
You say Brotherhood of Mutants, but I mean, I sure as fuck didn't recognize any of those characters.
No, I didn't either. I don't know who those two characters were.
Especially the dreadlocks as tentacles guy. That is a dumb fucking power. And if that's in the comics, that is a really D, E, C-list, D, worse than E-list character.
Dude, that's really low. I mean, he's got to be incredibly low. And then on top of that, like
hair as a weapon is also in the what's the fucking show that no one goddamn watched that was MCU? The one like they're on the moon. In Black Bolts.
Yeah. Inhumans.
Yeah, isn't there a chick who has like red hair and she can also control her hair? Don't do that. Don't have hair be a power.
Yeah, I don't know who those characters were, and the other one was a woman who had some ability to do like figure out if you're a mutant, like where you were, and like had some mind control, which is kind of similar to a character they had, Callisto.
Yeah.
In the Last Stand, who could find mutants, because she could rate you. And that was always great. I love that. Oh, yeah? You're a 5 mutant. Oh, yeah?
No, they're class 4.
Mutant.
Magneto and Pyro are both class 4 because class 5 is a theoretical type of mutant that has almost infinite powers, which apparently Jean Grey is one of. And I guess Iceman is too because he could cause the heat death of the entire universe if he focused hard enough.
So we can move on, the fight starts to pare itself down, right, as people start getting knocked out, and we get, Magneto versus Phoenix.
Kind of.
And I actually liked how, Magneto's head was crushed.
Doing this in front of each other. I'm doing jazz hands.
I liked it. It wasn't that bad. It was not that bad. And then it's not as bad as the next fight, which is after Magneto's quickly beaten and dismissed by the Phoenix, which it looks like she almost killed him, but I guess she didn't kill him. Then Charles is
question mark
taking up the stairs.
There's a lot of her
right?
like doing this, like stopping people, and then like doing like a quick swipe to the left, and then they slam into a wall, and they're briefly incapacitated. Like she should be disintegrating people, killing them, but she keeps kind of like push. You're pushed. You got pushed into a wall. You got pushed into a wall, and you're not able to do anything for like.
Wait, disintegrating people? You're talking about the finale.
No, I'm talking about like just the character is omnipotent. If she wants to kill Magneto, fucking kill Magneto. But instead, she just keeps pushing him places.
So I thought she did kill him, or thought that she did kill him, because it seemed like she threw like some kind of like shrapnel into his chest when she shoved him out the window or shoved him out the wall or whatever it was. But I found it fucking hilarious when she had Charles walk up the stairs, and all I could see was just James McAvoy doing fucking some what do you call it, some slapstick comedy, some body humor.
McAvoy has to do some weird fucking acting in his career. And by the way, while we're talking about McAvoy acting weird, you've seen Split, right? You've seen the other the Glass and.
I've not seen Glass.
Okay,
no.
well you've seen Split. You've seen enough. When he does the female character, like the female personality that's in his brain.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, hello. I'm here to talk to you. I can understand that's very upsetting. I'm not here to hurt you at all." That sounds just like his performance as Professor X.
Really? I don't know. It's a little bit more feminine, I would say.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, okay, fine, just a little
not
bit.
Enough not that it's not that different of performance, and that's odd.
So after, the Phoenix, is almost taken over by Vuk, Jessica Chastain's character.
Keep saying Vuk.
and or Vuk, I don't know how you pronounce her alien name. And then she,
no, I'm just saying that fuck doesn't sound like a terrible name for a character, for a fictional alien character.
Well,
call her fuck. Fuck it.
It wasn't a character. That's what my wife said. There wasn't a big character in the comics. I mean, it's like a super small character in the comics. So I mean, no one ever expected to like name this character in the comic. Whatever writer wrote that character wasn't like, this will be a big character in a film someday. This will be the antagonist of the whole movie. Like they never expected that. So
Jessica Chastain's 42.
She's beautiful. She looks great.
She's looking good.
She looks amazing. Yeah, she's really beautiful and amazing. So anyways, after she hilariously, moves Charles Xavier up the stairs and almost kills him and then doesn't kill him and then essentially he convinces Jean to like not let the Phoenix Force be completely taken from her by Vuk by showing her that, the reality is that you killed your mom and that I always loved you and your dad always hated you ever since you killed his wife. Like, that was like, whatever.
Speaking of Shazam again, like, we're getting a lot of fucking deadbeat parents.
We are. We are, yeah. We didn't get that in The Last Stand.
No. The house is empty, right? No one was there?
Yeah, no one's there. So maybe Simon Kinberg stole all of this from Shazam. He saw Shazam and was like, these are great scenes. I'll quickly reshoot these. Put them in the movie. And then people think, oh, no. He had those all along. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Shazam was a good movie. No, it wasn't?
Great movie.
Oh, yeah.
You said 5 out of 5 boys.
I did.
Yeah, I would say that's not a good movie. That's a great movie.
Great movie's fine. I'll give it a great movie. I'd rather be talking about a great movie right now than Last Stand, which is a movie that or not Last Stand, Dark Phoenix.
Well, wrapping this up, so all the mutants get, essentially arrested in the process of trying to get away from the cops in New York City as they all show up on everybody. And the only one that does get away is Vuk with some of the Phoenix power.
Every time you call it New York City, I think back to the scenes. It's like, that is the most backlotty New York City I think we've ever seen New York City look like. That was the New York City less convincingly depicted than in like CSI New York City or whatever. Like where we just have the 3 backlots at Universal that can be New York City or
don't
San
forget
Francisco.
Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers has a great backlot for New York City.
Well, I've never seen Fox's backlot, but I've seen Universal's, and their New York City looks just like that. It looks like it was a backlot.
It did. It looked very the backlot trick to me is curbs. You look at the curb. If the curb looks like a backlot curb, and a backlot curb is very shallow.
I just look for depth. Like when you can only see like 30 feet down the street.
Right. Well, sometimes they CGI that now, though, right?
Sometimes they didn't this time. It was a practical set, and it was not really in New York.
It was very New York City. Well, they get arrested, they get on a train, and we get a flawless transition to a third act that was not the original third act. The original third act was much more influenced from Captain America Civil War. Apparently, Simon Kinberg saw that film, said, you have this huge airport fight at the end of the second act, and then at the final third act, you have just Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man all fighting each other. And it's very, 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 personal in that way. That's what he wanted for the end of Dark Phoenix. He wanted Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Professor X all to be at the UN fighting Skrulls. Essentially what's going to happen is Professor X and Cyclops are going to go to the UN and try to get into the UN, and we're going to have trouble getting the UN. And all of a sudden it turned out like, all the UN guards were Skrulls, at which point Jean Grey would have shown up to help fight them. They would have all stood there, fought the Skrulls off to the point where Jean Grey, takes Vuk or whatever again up into space and blows her away. But it was Skrulls. It would have been like, the Skrull Queen. It would not have been, obviously, some Dabari character.
You're really mad about the not having Skrulls in this movie.
No, I'm not. I'm not mad at all about that. Do I sound mad about that?
Well,
I don't.
You keep talking about the Skrulls.
Well, because they were. Because, they were originally Skrulls. I mean, it's very clear they were originally Skrulls. They were not supposed to be anything other than Skrulls, and they had to change it last minute. So, that being the case, I don't like the sound of that third act at all.
No, I don't think it was a matter of like they had it perfect, but then that Captain Marvel came around and they had it's
bitch.
It was more than just the movie. Like it felt like everything was going through the motions. Maybe I'm sure Simon Kinberg was just giving it his all. He was doing everything he could to make a cool X-Men movie. This movie's gonna be so good. They're gonna Disney's just gonna let us keep making movies with Sophie Turner and Ty Sheridan because people want more Ty Sheridan as Cyclops. But no one else involved was deluded, and clearly everyone, I mean, even Sophie Turner seemed like she just didn't give a shit. Like, nobody really seemed like they cared in this movie. Actor-wise, it was just, it felt like going through the motions, and it felt like, you know, giving a birthday party for a stillborn baby or whatever, so.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Happy first birthday! It's like, it's rotting, it smells horrible.
It's in formaldehyde. So I don't think of it that way. I actually thought the actors did a fairly good job. I thought Jennifer Law, her new name is Jennifer Law. I thought J Law.
I am the law.
I thought J Law was.
That was the Judge Dredd reference.
Good. I thought J Law was good, honestly.
She's in the movie for 15 minutes.
I know, but I thought she was good for those 15 minutes.
By the way, the women are always saving the men around here.
Oh my God. So okay. So yeah, we can get to that. You know, let's get to that now. So
beginning of the movie.
There's no return. There's no return of the comic book accurate costumes from the end of X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, fuck that.
And going into this movie, the new costumes are all uniform, like literally uniform across the board. So J-Law though gets a camel toe for hers, and that whole scene where she's just like, yay, with all these women in this group saving all these boys, we should name this team the X-Girls, right? Or the X-Women, whatever the fuck. And, like, the whole time I'm watching her, I'm just like, oh, my God, there's a hardcore camel toe. Like, and it's not a flattering camel toe.
I didn't notice a camel toe at all, but now...
There was a camel toe. There was a total camel toe. It was the weirdest thing. I'm just like, why does her character have camel toe?
Let's just go ahead and use Chrome for this. Jennifer Lawrence. Let's just go camel toe. I'm sure we'll get plenty.
You'll get plenty.
Let's see. Mostly her going to yoga. Now let's go ahead and she kind of had Passengers is kind of camel toe. Actually, I didn't notice that.
Wow.
The swim outfit. But let's just add Dark Phoenix. Not getting any camel toe images from Dark Phoenix here.
Shit.
Yeah.
Well, you were saying earlier.
Your word for that.
Okay, we'll move it on. You were saying earlier that, like, you know, Simon Kinberg was probably giving a lot of these ending sequences right?
Remember that?
I love that's my favorite shot. That's my favorite shot of all the films. Yeah. So you were saying earlier that Simon Kinberg was probably directing a lot of these sequences, giving it his all. Apparently, the train sequence of the third act, he didn't direct any of that.
Who did? Brian Singer.
I do not know.
Huh.
Apparently, I mean, hang on, let me see.
Mystery.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see.
Fuck, the concept art for her fucking dress for American Hustle, they were really, hold on, adjust, there we go. Look at that fucking concept art.
Wow.
They know what her fucking ass is. Because they drew, that's her face, clearly. So, like, they were drawing ass. I'm sure whoever was doing the concept art for Mystique was just like, well, she's not Rebecca Romaine Stamos, you know. She has bigger tits than Rebecca Romaine Stamos is the catch. That's why they can't have her blue as much.
Is she really?
Oh, yeah, they're definitely bigger. They flop around way more than Stamos's. Rebecca Romaine Stamos's.
Wow, I did not know that.
Oh, Stamos's is smaller. What are you looking for?
So I was gonna say, so that one scene you were saying earlier that Kinberg, you know, probably was directing it his all, giving it his all, and that train sequence was not shot by him at all. That train sequence was actually shot by it's in the movie's credits actually. It was done by the stunt coordinator Brian Smurs or whatever the fuck his name is.
Smurs.
It's from Iron Man 3. He actually shot all that sequence. It's actually he's credited as the train sequence director. So. Yeah, and that was actually a fairly well done scene, I thought. It did have one of those moments where it was just like everyone was like gonna stand off against the aliens, and they're all like we're not gonna take it because we're mutants, and it's supposed to be the Avenger shot, right? It's supposed to be that awesome shot. It's like look at all of them right there, but it's loaded with like these Brotherhood mutants that we don't know, and we're like, oh wait, who are these backup guys? And it just fell flat. Like, it was just one of those moments that fell flat. But I actually did like the whole train
Dreadlock's
sequence. I thought it
guy
was
got defeated by the alien species I don't know the name of.
And remember how he got defeated? He just got pushed out the back.
Dude,
that was it. He just fell to his death off the back of the train.
It was just
It was in.
Scrolling up
I
on
thought
Twitter.
it looked really good though, and I was really blown away. If this was reshoots, it was all clearly had been green screens and studio and all done in a computer. And for being done in the computer, it looked really good.
Well,
And
they can
just-
build a train set.
Exactly. Well, that's what's impressive to me is how quick now they can turn around some models because of how wide the library is, the model library is for a lot of these production companies. They can just be like, boom, all right, train sequence, all right, Hueys, boom, we got them, tunnels, boom, trees, got them, boom, done, forest taken care of. You know what I mean? Like, because they threw together a really, like, you know, impressive, like, third act. I actually liked it a lot. Not the horrible team shot aside, of course.
I was just counting down the minutes.
Really? Were you? Really?
Yeah, I was bored as fuck. I didn't care. What is the point of any of this? There has to be a reason why you're watching a movie.
Well, I'm watching this movie because it's the last time I will see a Foxmen, you know, film. That's why.
Yeah.
That's literally the reason why.
Yeah.
Well, they did the same thing they did after the train sequence when the train wipes out, you know, and Dark Phoenix finally comes to and has to fight off Vuk with some of the Dark Phoenix power. And so the Dark Phoenix starts wiping out a bunch of the Dabari aliens with the exact same fucking skill set she used in The Last Stand. She starts just dissolving, disintegrating people, right? Breaking them down at a molecular level.
Yeah, they didn't really justify this being a retelling. Because Last Stand's a better movie by every fucking measure that I can give it, and
I think Last Stand is a better movie. Yes,
and it's a more emotional retelling of the Dark Phoenix story, just because like the end, I remember like it's memorable, like Wolverine disintegrating as he stabs her, and like they carried that over into the Wolverine because that was a memorable, not poorly done emotional scene, whereas nothing emotional ever struck me. I didn't give a shit about any of like the emotions of this film. I don't care about Ty Sheridan and Sophie Turner. I don't think they even like each other.
That's why everyone. Okay, this is one bit of like major critique to the film that's just inherent because it's nothing you can do about this. This takes place from a perspective of setting release dates and budgeting films out. This should have been a two-parter.
Yeah.
I don't know if Simon Kinberg was ever the right choice for that, but this should have been a two-parter. You can't do the Dark Phoenix story if you don't do Phoenix first. I don't understand why they keep avoiding the Phoenix saga. Do Phoenix saga first, then do Dark Phoenix saga.
I don't think this
the
Phoenix
saga is awesome.
I'm gonna say even more so. I don't think the Phoenix story is so fucking important that they needed to do it again.
They probably
if this is their last movie, if they didn't know that, if this is just like their next movie, it's like, why are we going back to Dark Phoenix? We did that and it didn't pan out too great, and it's not like regarded as that fucking amazing of story.
So wait, okay, so let me ask you this then. How many years before Marvel begins to at least hint at the Phoenix Force again in their MCU X-Men universe? Like the actual MCU.
I am going to say never. They never do that storyline.
You say they completely drop it, abandon it, don't touch it ever again. Just it's been done to death.
Generally speaking, when something's been done twice, they say fuck it. Uncle Ben, done twice, fuck it. We're skipping that. We're skipping Phoenix. We're just never doing it.
Okay, so then same thing then. Magneto. Is he just not going to be mentioned in the X-Men for a long period of time? Or is he never mentioned? Because he's a villain that's been done way to death in the Foxmen universe.
They will do Magneto, just like they'll do a spin on it, and maybe they'll black him up. Maybe they'll do African shit and do a different interpretation. Hey, MJ's back, but she's not named Mary Jane and she's black. You know, maybe they'll do a different Magneto.
Okay, but do we get Magneto right away? Or
if they do him different enough, they'll bring him in with because Magneto's like the third most important X-Men character, basically. So I feel like they'll bring him in pretty quickly. They won't do Mr. Sinister or something. X-Men's going to come in with Fantastic Four, and they're going to get into more of like the weird shit.
I really wonder at what their game plan is for X-Men. I would love to be a fly on the wall in Kevin Feige's office just to be able to hear any ideas of what they're doing with that, because it's just so curious how they must have some plan already in motion within their creative teams. Obviously, I don't think they're going to do anything in the films for a long period of time, but they're obviously talking about it there, and I would love to know what they're thinking, because it's just to have the brainstorming sessions of what to do, because Fox has done so much and fucked up so much.
I don't know. I think Spider-Man's a good indication for how they'll handle it. They'll stay true to the characters, but they will be fresh, and they won't show you the shit you've seen before.
Okay. Well, speaking of things you've seen before, so when we're watching, like, Avengers Infinity War, and we're seeing, like, all the snapping going down and everyone's disintegrating, I remember thinking to myself, this is familiar, and I can't put a finger on it. It wasn't until I saw Dark Phoenix that as soon as I saw it happen again in Dark Phoenix, the disintegration of everybody, right, I thought to myself, oh, fuck yeah. That's from the last stand.
Disintegrating is just a comic book sci-fi staple. People disintegrate all the time.
But I've never really seen it done like it was done in Infinity War, except for in The Last Stand. Like, that was the last time I think I saw it done like that.
Yeah.
Where it was just like poof and this dust had gone away. Not broken down to like a really violent, gory Neil Blomkamp level, like done like maybe, what was it called? Firestarter or whatever the fuck it was called. Firewalk, Fire Project. What the fuck was that called? Firebase. Like Oats Studios Firebase.
You're talking about Oats Studio again.
So then everything kind of, wraps up immediately nicely after Jean Grey takes, Vuk into space, disintegrates her, and becomes one with the Phoenix Force. Which is when I was thinking again, like I mentioned earlier, maybe she always had something in her, like her mutant power was the Phoenix Force.
Very vague.
And that maybe that's exactly the reason why the Phoenix Force was attracted to her, because that's why she's able to sustain the power, or maybe she's just that powerful of a mutant.
I don't know.
Able to control the power.
When Jessica Chastain started explaining what the Phoenix was, that's where I went to pee. So I missed a little time.
It's a force. It's just a giant force that can go around creating life.
Yeah.
On planets, and it can destroy planets to create more life on planets, and that's essentially where the movie ends. We get, Charles and Eric playing chess, right, and in Paris, and we look up and we see that the Phoenix Force did survive. Jean Grey is going to survive as the Phoenix Force, and she's just going to fly around planet to planet creating life. Yay!
Okay, that's what's going on there?
That's the end. Yeah, and that's the end of the Fox-Men universe. I mean, we will never see the New Mutants in theaters. I will be surprised if we see the New Mutants in theaters, but that's it. That's the end. So Fox-Men universe went out with, like, a mediocre film after a mediocre franchise.
I would give it less than mediocre, and although the franchise had its highs, I mean, and Logan is a worthy,
but big lows.
Yeah, it did. But Logan is a worthy ender, because just as Endgame seems to imply that yes, this is an end of sorts, but it's not the end. But it's a end. It's an end of Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. Mm-hmm. Robert Downey Jr. is off to save the environment. Chris Evans is off to his sex dungeon.
Woo!
And the franchise will be a little bit different from here on out. In this case, the franchise is dead. It will not carry on in this continuity, or I assume casting continuity, with the maybe asterisks of Ryan Reynolds, because everybody loves Ryan Reynolds so much because he's so likable. He's so fuckable. Yeah. They'll let him do whatever the fuck he wants. You want to be Pikachu? You can be Pikachu. Who cares? Do whatever you want.
You want some money and to help run a gin company? You don't have to do anything, just be a face? Done.
No, is that a thing? Mm-hmm. The Reynolds gym?
Yeah, aviation. It's amazing gin, though. Really good gin.
Are you saying gym or gin?
Gin.
Oh, the
like
drink.
Alcohol.
Okay. I thought I heard Jim, and I thought he had a gym franchise.
Jim Halpert.
No, GYM. Oh, a guy.
So, anyways, you're right. Deadpool is the only way this franchise will continue, and he will obviously be able to make mention of, oh, I used to be, under this company, and now I'm under this company. Seems like my F-bombs will be censored. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
They'll let him
Oh.
talk about the MCU, but they won't let the MCU talk about Deadpool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is also how it's kind of been positioned
Yeah.
as a franchise by Bob Iger, and from things we've heard from Kevin Feige, where it sounds like, yeah, it's Deadpool will comment on everything and be able to go anywhere, but yeah, limitations will be only there because after that, everyone else will not be referring to Deadpool.
Yeah.
So, Dark Phoenix, who is your fuck me from this movie? Because Felk, we're in the fuck me final tidbits.
That's a tough one, actually. It's between J Law and Sansa. I'm gonna go.
Oh, seriously?
I'm gonna go J Law.
See, I'm Alexandra Shipp. I thought Storm was amazing in this. I really loved. I love her. She looks beautiful. Oh, oof. Storm's a great character.
You'd rather fuck Alexandra Shipp than Sophie Turner or Jennifer Lawrence
Yes. Yeah.
or Michael Fassbender.
And I would rather fuck Alexandra Shipp with her mohawk.
Yeah.
I loved her with the mohawk. Okay, hang on.
Weird choice.
Hang on. Let's talk
J-Law.
about that for a second. Storm has had different hair in every single X-Men film with the exception of Dark Phoenix. Quick question. Which X-Men film does she have the same hair that she has in Dark Phoenix?
Apocalypse? That's the only movie she's in.
No. Alexandra Shipp, yeah, but I'm talking about the character Storm.
She has the same hair as Halle Berry in one of the movies?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't care. I don't care about Storm's hair.
Days of Future Past, they have the exact same hair in Dark Phoenix and Days of Future Past. It's the only time Storm hair has ever been the same. Now, what's your favorite Storm hair out of all the Storm hair?
Pass.
Mine is X2. I love X2 Storm hair.
I do not give a shit about Storm's hair.
I love it when it's just like right behind her ears and it's like shoulder length and it's really hot. And then I would say next, Mohawk.
I don't like girls dyeing their hair white either.
But she's not dyeing her hair white, right? That's not Storm dyeing her hair.
Well,
the character's not
Halle
dyeing
Berry
her
just
hair.
wore wigs.
Yeah, and Halle Berry just wore wigs, exactly.
No, I got.
Oh, speaking of hair, did it piss you off when you were looking at Jean's CG hair?
When she was like fiery?
No, Jean Grey's hair, when just at moments when it was supposed to look like it was windy, was fully CGI, just to have it moving. So it felt like that the hair was also like, fully energized by the Phoenix Force, that it was moving. It was like literally Aquaman like level of hair moving, like it was underwater, but it was just Jean Grey's hair in scenes. Like the scene where she kills Mystique, her hair is moving that whole time. It's the weirdest, and it's CGI. It's really odd. And Captain Marvel did a bunch of CGI hair too. And there are a few times it's obvious, like when she just goes into space and their hair is supposed to be anti-gravity hair, it's all floating. But the rest of Captain Marvel's hair, when it's CGI, when she's feeling the binary force, is really well done. Sophie Turner's hair did not look good,
Right.
to me at least. And when she was like phoenixing,
No.
and it was wiggling like weird spaghetti. I did not like it at all.
I did not. Of all the things I had problems with, CGI hair was not on the list. I am wondering now.
Did you even see it, or were you twittering?
Probably twittering. I mean, I'm wondering now if Sophie Turner is naturally a redhead. Joe Jonas, if you're listening, she got that fire crotch. Let us know.
Did you ever end up saying who you would fuck? You said J-Law? No, you said...
Oh, yeah, it's J-Law all the way. J-Law for the entirety of the X-Men franchise, I believe. She's the hottest.
Awesome.
She's the hottest, yeah.
So,
who else is hotter? Rebecca Romaine Stamos was really hot, but, like, J-Law...
Halle Berry is not hotter, but she would be my next after J-Law, I would say. But
Ellen Page? Oh, yeah.
No, not Ellen Page.
God,
No, I mean Ellen Page is cute and beautiful,
No,
but
she's
like
not.
I wouldn't want to fuck her. Alexandra Shipp, though, out of the J-Law in this film
I don't-
and the Sophie Turner in this film, I would say Alexandra Shipp for sure.
I don't. You're acting like she's been in other things. I don't.
I don't know her in anything else, but I think she's really beautiful.
27. Okay, well, that checks out. I guess she's not unattractive.
She's definitely not unattractive.
I don't like mohawks on girls.
No, I know, but sometimes they can pull it off, and I think she pulls it off enough that I enjoyed it.
No, have hair all over.
Felk, where was the fuck in this one, huh? X-Men films drop fucks now, so where was the fuck in this one?
They didn't have one, did they?
They did. Cyclops said it.
Oh, really? When did he say it?
So Cyclops said in New York City right before they got into the fight with Magneto.
I'm the
Magneto's
Cyclops, bitch.
He says something like, Magneto's like, I'm gonna go in there and go kill Jean Grey, and Cyclops says something like,
Fuck yeah.
I will fucking kill you.
Yeah, I don't think that was in the movie, but again,
He does. No, he says that. Cyclops says, I will fucking kill you.
I will fucking kill you. I don't remember.
I will
that.
fucking kill you. He says, I will fucking kill you.
I'll take your word for it,
dude. I wrote it down after he said it because I was blown away. I was like, whoa, Cyclops said, I will fucking kill you? Was he Optimus all of a sudden?
Yeah, I remember that movie.
Which one?
I'll fucking kill you.
All 5 of the Transformers, Optimus yells, I will fucking kill you.
Give me the cube or I'll fucking kill you.
Seriously, I've watched some of the Transformers films back with my kids, and they're the movies that you're like, oh, geez. Oh, Optimus, stop being so bloodthirsty. You fucking warmongerer.
Okay, let's move on.
Oh, did you also notice that Cyclops was always running in and out of rooms super fast throughout the movie?
I do not like Ty Sheridan. I think he's bad in everything.
I know you hated him in the Ready Player One.
I did, and I hate him. I hate him in Cyclops too. He's got a weird mouth face thing going on.
There were so many times they just cut all of a sudden to Ty Sheridan sprinting down a hall and kicking open doors and being like, so-and-so is gone, so-and-so is sick, so-and-so is here. Like, it was pretty funny. There were a bunch of moments of that.
I'm getting very hungry here.
Okay, well, Felk, we're wrapping up here. So, obviously, there's no sequel here, right? And There was no Wolverine.
No.
This is the first X-Men film to have absolutely no Hugh Jackman or Wolverine at all in the movie. Deadpool movies always had somehow a Hugh Jackman reference or an actual scene from another film in there.
Sure. Yeah, you need him. You need him to be in the movie.
It was kind of sad to not have him at all.
Apocalypse was fucking terrible though. Like that was so shoehorned in, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, and I don't know where he would have been honestly in this story that would have made sense, but I felt like it just was weird to have him not in it. And also, to have somebody else that was missing, that's part of the X-Men past. There was no Lauren Schuler Donner involvement in this film at all. At all. She even someone on Twitter was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you had to be a part of, X-Men Dark Phoenix. And she wrote, save your condolences. I had nothing to do with Dark Phoenix or Apocalypse or New Mutants.
But she's an executive producer from the credits.
Yeah, but she's barely attached. I think she's also technically worked on I think she technically has the credits on Days of Future Past and Logan as well, but she did not work on those either, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the case. So she hasn't been on it for a while, and but it's just one of those things that she clearly wanted to distance herself though. Once Dark Phoenix came out, she was just like, fuck that. Don't even connect me to these at all. I'm over it. I'm done. I'm donezo.
Sorry, Lauren Schuler Donner. Richard Donner's wife or daughter, I'm not sure.
Daughter. But what is she gonna do now? All she's been doing since 2000 has been X-Men films.
I don't know. If you have to, if Disney has to have women in charge, replace Kathleen Kennedy with her. I think we can wrap it up and we have to rate them all now, or rank them all.
Rank them all. They're right. So last time at our Deadpool 2 spoiler cast, we had a major fiasco. We tried to wing it, right?
I tried to wing it. You didn't even want to do it, but I was bold.
But you did. You wanted to do it, and you were bold, and we tried, and we got through them all, except we fucking forgot First Class, and that was the only one. And, of course, you can't forget First Class out of all of those, because that one obviously ranks really high up there.
Pretty high, yeah.
Here we go. Quick Cool Boy ranking of all the Fox Men films.
We alternating, or we do them all at once?
Do them all at once. Start with your worst, end on your best.
I'm going first.
Go first, Felk.
Worst is X-Men Dark Phoenix as the most boring time I had. Then X-Men Origins Wolverine, technically a worse film, but more interesting. I'm going to go Apocalypse now. And this gets tough. Now I'm going to go Deadpool 2. Getting complicated here. I'm going to go Last Stand. Then... the Wolverine, then Deadpool, then X-Men, then DAFPA, Days of Future Past, then X-Men First Class, then Logan, and then I'm going to give X2, X-Men United still the best.
Wow. Ooh, okay, so I think my final three might be somewhat similar to that, actually. Okay, so I'm going to go first. I'm going to say X-Men Origins Wolverine is my least favorite. Whether it's rated or ranked, it's just my least favorite. So, yeah, that's that. Then I'm going to say after X-Men Origins Wolverine, next I would have to go with X-Men Apocalypse. I really could not stand X-Men Apocalypse. I thought it was garbage. And it was shocking coming after something like Days of Future Past and First Class. And just Deadpool and the Wolverine, which, once again, I actually like the Wolverine. After that, I would say it goes X-Men Dark Phoenix. Then I would say it goes X-Men The Last Stand. So I say Last Stand is just a slightly better film, and that's kind of sad. Then I would say X-Men. Then I would say The Wolverine. Then I would go with, I think it's going to go Deadpool 2, then Deadpool.
Okay. Back to back.
Then Logan.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Then First Class.
Okay.
And then, I'm going to go X-Men Days of Future Past next, and I'm going to end it on X2, X-Men United. And the only reason I'm going to end with X2, X-Men United is because it had yet to be fucked up by all the continuity issues.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame the movie for that. Nor do I blame the movie, the finished product of the movie, for the horrible things happening at pool parties while it was being made.
Amen. Allegedly.
Cool Boy Nation, tell us what you thought about X-Men Dark Phoenix by emailing us at thecoolboyspodcast@gmail.com. New episodes of the Cool Boys Podcast come out every week. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Cool Boys and review us on iTunes. You can also donate to us on patreon.com at www.patreon.com/coolboyspodcast.
Ooh.
Also, please check out our other great Cool Boy Central content with Batman and Beyond on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube.
And we have a huge mailbag growing, and we need to go through it. We're not going to this time, and we'll try to next week. Next week will be our mailbag episode.
Find out where's Nolan.
And also, we have some other inquiries from some others, too.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Stay cool, Cool Boy Nation. Until next time, it's Byzies from Felk.
And that's Byzies from Ballard.
You are an upstanding American boy.
You have excelled in all things.
I pump while I dump. Oh, yeah.
So cool.
Oh, yeah. So cool.
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
Oh, yeah.
This episode of the Cool Boys Podcast was brought to you by...
Get some
Cool Boys.
So serious.